For Hastings.
Acting Speaker, I am happy to rise to speak on the Drugs, Poisons and Controlled Substances Amendment Authorising Pharmacists Bill of 2023. The purpose of this Act is to amend the Drugs, Poisons and Controlled Substances Act of 1981 to introduce new regulation powers to enable pharmacists to supply, dispense, administer, use or sell Schedule 4 poisons without a prescription in certain circumstances. In November 2022, Government committed to establish a pilot to increase access to timely treatment for common health conditions. And these health conditions are uncomplicated urinary tract infections, the resupply of some oral contraceptives, some mild skin conditions such as shingles, although I wouldn't call shingles mild, and the additional travel and public health vaccines such as flu shots and COVID shots and other vaccines required for overseas travel protection. Now, this pilot is consistent with the pilot which is run in Queensland and another trial being established in New South Wales, and is aligned with Commonwealth initiatives to increase timely access to safe primary care and common medications. So what does this actually mean? Well, it means that people can go to their pharmacist and get their ongoing normal prescription filled for the pill, or get some antibiotics for complicated urinary tract infections, get their flu and COVID vaccines without a prescription, and it's the same with mild skin conditions, and all without going to a doctor, which I think makes a lot of sense. And I don't really understand the tension between the doctors and the pharmacists. I would have thought that it's in all of our best interest for everyone to work together for the health and well-being of all of our community, not work against each other. It reminds me 50 years ago when my father was a chiropractor and my uncle practising in Australia, and in those days doctors really considered chiropractors to be witch doctors. And it's taken some seriously, and same with physiotherapists and osteos. It's taken 40 years for doctors and chiropractors to come together, so I hope there is health for doctors and pharmacists to come together. Now, this bill will help with the cost of living. So people who are struggling at the moment to put fuel in their car or food on the table can save the cost of jumping in that car and going to see their doctor, and also save the extra cost of an additional fee to see their doctor, and then get a script and then save the cost of the petrol driving home again. Instead, they could just go straight to the chemist and get their script filled. Of course, if you live in my electorate with the bus timetable of every 2 hours and a train of every 2 hours, trying to catch public service and go to the doctors and then get your script full and catch public service home is a pretty arduous task, especially if you have young kids, and especially if you are sick or in pain with with a urinary tract infection or shingles or whatever. Now, doctors will argue the policy undermines the holistic care they offer to their patients when they visit. But the fact remains, and especially in the case of the pill, a woman would still need to visit a doctor in order to obtain their first subscription, but then would be able to get repeat scripts of the drug over the counter from pharmacists. Now, the member of Brunswick the member for Brunswick spoke a lot about risk, and I think he made a lot of sense, but we've got to remember that this is a trial. And part of a trial, a 12-month trial, is to look at all of the circumstances and through that period mitigate those risks and work towards making the trial, especially after a year, putting together so that it actually works in the way that it's intended. And I fully expect that will happen with this trial. He also spoke about the risks of pharmacists over-prescribing and whether they're going to notice a shingle or whether it might be cancer. Well, I can just say my experience with my pharmacist. I watched him the other day talk to a client, and he listened very carefully to what they were asking, and at the end of the day he recommended that they go back to their doctor because he knew that was the best advice. So I've got to say I certainly trust my pharmacists. Pharmacists are highly trained, intelligent and caring people. Certainly during COVID they stepped up massively to look after their communities. And where it was very difficult to go to your doctor because of COVID, you could still go and see your pharmacist. They were open and ready to give you the best care that they could, And they've trained for a minimum of 5 years. And additionally, I look at the lived experience of my pharmacists and other pharmacists I've been to. They have years and years of lived experience and certainly know how to look after their community. They also undertook new training so that they could administer a variety of different vaccine shots, thus alleviating a lot of pressure off doctors and doctors' surgery so they, in turn, could look after more people. Now, the member of Box Hill the member for Box Hill spoke about the difficulties of getting his travel vaccines. I know when I was dancing with Sydney Dance Company and we would go overseas, it would take me half a day to find a specialist who could give me the vaccines I needed before I could get back to work. I think going straight to your pharmacist for this sort of vaccines, again, makes a lot of sense. Now, I have to say during COVID and after COVID, if there is such a thing, but certainly since COVID, I've seen many pharmacists my pharmacist more time than my doctor. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my doctor. She's an integral part of my ongoing health and well-being, but so is my pharmacist. And this is why I believe this trial is important to me and to our community. Every time I go to my pharmacist, whether to buy vitamins, get a script filled, or to show him the gruesome results of my latest and greatest slip-up with one of my cooking knives, the treatment I get, the care, the concern and the considered advice I receive, I can see without a doubt that this is feedback from someone with lived and living experience of being at the coalface throughout COVID. They did what was asked, and I believe now, and I'm more than comfortable now with this bill and giving them more responsibility. Of course, we're only talking about 4 health conditions as being part of this trial, so the need to still go to your doctor is pertinent and relevant. This trial, in my view, will not and does not adversely affect the doctor-patient relationship of care. In fact, I think it can assist that relationship by freeing up doctors so they have more time to see patients on other health issues that may be more critical. I have to say that one of the most common complaints about going to the doctor is the fact that wait times are incredibly long. And I know with my doctor I need to book at least 2 months in advance. So quite frankly, a woman with urinary tract infection cannot wait that long to see their doctor and get treatment. And quite often, a woman, and in fact myself, doesn't want to go to a doctor they've never seen before. To be able to go to your pharmacist, whom you most likely have already built up a relationship with, and get a fairly common antibiotic that will fix an uncomplicated urinary tract infection makes enormous sense. Community pharmacists are accessible and trusted health professionals in our community who already manage a range of health conditions and refer customers to doctors when required. And at the same can be said about treating common and mild skin conditions and vaccines and those things. So, look, I obviously support this bill. There is something else I would like to ask everyone to consider, and that's a little bit different, and that's around the pill. And it's usually considered that the pill is prescribed only for birth control. But the fact is, that's only one function of the pill for women. The pill is also often prescribed to help with issues of pain, anxiety and depression caused by hormonal conditions. Hormonal birth control can help alleviate the depression symptoms associated with conditions such as premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. For many women, birth control helps to manage and even improve their mood and overall mental health. Some studies have found that the pill can reduce the symptoms of depression in some women. I have 3 daughters. I have lived experience of this. The other thing the pill is prescribed for is to help manage symptoms of endometriosis. It is thought the pill could slow down or inhibit the growth of endometriosis, which I have to say is an absolutely insidious, incredibly painful and debilitating disease. And that said, with the growing awareness of endometriosis, the community and many health professionals still lack a genuine understanding of this life-designing disease, which affects 1 in 9 women, around 11.4% of the population. It costs a woman with endo on average $30,000 a year and costs the economy $9.7 million per year. My daughter Emily has this disease, has suffered immeasurably because of it and suffers still this day. No doctor could work out what was wrong with Emily, and they would often diagnose her with something that didn't make sense. Many doctors didn't know or believe endometriosis was a thing, and sadly the diagnostic time for endo was around 10 to 12 years, but has now dropped. This government is doing stuff. We've put $283 million towards women's health, $65 million of that towards treatment for debilitating endometriosis. If a woman is suffering from a hormone or mental health issue or endo pain from an attack and her script is rung out, she should not have to wait to see a doctor. She should be able to go to a pharmacist. I commend this bill to the House.